Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world. Even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, our brethren in Georgia, our brethren in Kansas, in Texas, in Missouri, in Chicago, Illinois, and Fiji Island, in Mexico, Spain, in Africa, Pakistan, Zambia, Kenya, to the United Kingdom, and our brethren in Australia, and also to our brethren in Malaysia. Good evening, and may the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. And to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad, greetings. This is our special episode number 13 in the subject, the opening of the seventh seal. Now, this time, let us continue to the subject concerning Matthew 25, the midnight cry. So, I would like to read early writings in 260 and 261. It says, those who rejected the first message could not be benefited by the second, neither were they benefited by the midnight cry, which was to prepare them to enter with Jesus by faith in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. So, the statement is very plain that the message of the first angel and the second angel, as well as the midnight cry, are messages to prepare God's people to enter with Jesus by faith into the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. Early Writings, page 216. I would like to read this reading and Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 129. It says, we are living in the closing scenes of these perilous times. The Lord foresaw the unbelief that now prevails respecting His coming. And again, He has given warning in His word that this event will be unexpected. The great day will come as a snail on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Luke 21 verse 35. But there are two classes. To one the apostle gives these encouraging words, ye brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 4. Some will be ready when the bridegroom comes and will go in with him to the marriage. So, hoping that we are among that some. It says, some will be ready when the bridegroom comes and will go in with him to the marriage. Volume 6, page 129. So, there are two classes according to the voice of inspiration. But in this study, without any doubts, that word some is directly addressed to the 144,000 living saints. And the coming of the bridegroom is Christ coming to the most holy place. Now let us read again the statement in 2SR, page 181. It says, the midnight cry was first proclaimed prior to 1844. And the coming of the bridegroom was Christ coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. So, the term investigative judgment indicates provisionary time. So here the Shepherd's Rod declared plainly that the coming of the bridegroom was Christ coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. Now, we already studied, brothers and sisters, that even the bookwork transaction, there is investigative and there is executive judgment. When it came to the most holy place, the investigative judgment is blotting out of sins. That before the sins of the righteous will be blotted out, there must be a close investigation first. But after their sins had been blotted out, then executive judgment. Executive judgment, which pertains to the righteous, is granting of rewards. They will now be rewarded because they obtained victory. So, here in 2SR, page 189, it says, during Christ's ministration in the holiest of all, which is a throne of judgment, of blotting out sins and granting of rewards. So there are only two proceedings in the most holy place, blotting out of sins, which is called investigative judgment, and granting of rewards, which is executive judgment. But the voice of inspiration made it so plain that the coming of Christ, or the coming of the bridegroom, is Christ coming to the most holy place for the investigative judgment. Therefore, that coming of Christ is Christ coming to the most holy place to blot out the sins of the 144,000 living saints. So, because we are focusing to the direct application of Matthew 25. Now, the same with the statement in 2SR. Let's read 2SR page 241. It says, "Therefore, the prophecy by Enoch commenced its fulfillment in 1844. At which time the Lord comes with the names and records of those who are sleeping in the grave. And when the investigation of the dead is finished, then He comes with the names of the living saints, first with the 144,000. So that is called the second coming of Christ to the most holy place. For what purpose? Bringing the names of the 144,000 living saints. So I would like to read here in Bible Commentary 7 BC 966. It says, "When the bridegroom came," so if we will apply it in the actual setting, when Jesus Christ entered the most holy place, because the coming of the bridegroom is Christ coming to the most holy place. 2SR 181. So it says, "When the bridegroom came, those that were ready went in with him to the wedding. But when the foolish virgins came, the door was shut, and they were too late to obtain an entrance." So the spirit prophecy is very plain that when the bridegroom came, those that were ready went in with him to the wedding. That is in the most holy place. Then it says, "But when the foolish virgins came," so here the spirit prophecy plainly telling us that when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place, to the wedding, brothers and sisters, at that time the foolish virgins were still in existence, and it was illustrated by they were knocking at the door, but the door was shut, and they were too late to obtain an entrance. 7 BC 966. So, brethren, we need to firmly establish that the coming of the bridegroom is Christ coming to the most holy place. And it is even more directly applied to the judgment concerning the living rather than to the dead, according to SR page 181. Now, I would like to read this reading in the Old Symbolic Code. So let us read Old Symbolic Code. One Symbolic Code number 10, page 9. One Symbolic Code number 10, page 9. It says, "I am unable to reconcile the teaching that Ezekiel 9 removes the unconverted," and it says the 5 foolish virgins, "from the church at the beginning of the loud crying, with the parable of the 10 virgins which preserves the wise and the foolish together until the Lord's coming." Answer: the parable of the 10 virgins cannot preserve the virgins until the Lord's coming, but rather up to some time before the final close of provision. For note more carefully what the scripture said, "And they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the door was shut." Matthew 25, verse 10. The words "to the marriage" denote that the call was made. It says, the words "to the marriage" denote that the call was made. It did not say that the call is made, but rather that the call was made. And the door was shut before the marriage took place. And as Christ is married or crowned at the close of human provision, see the Great Controversy, page 426 and 427. And before the 7 last plagues are poured out, it proves that the call, "Behold, the bridegroom cometh," is not the coming of Christ in the clouds, when He receives His people unto Himself, but rather His coming to the sanctuary for the judgment of the living. One Symbolic Code, number 10, on page 9. So, but it is even more specific in 2SR 181 because it says Christ coming, yes, to the sanctuary, but it says it is in the most holy place. Not in the holy place, but in the most holy place. And that is, brothers and sisters, concerning the judgment that pertains to the living. Now, let's read 2SR 184. It says, the coming of Christ as our high priest to the most holy place for the cleansing of the sanctuary, brought to view in Daniel 8 verse 14, the coming of the Son of Man to the Ancient of Days, as presented in Daniel 7 verse 13, and the coming of the Lord to His temple, foretold by Malachi, are descriptions of the same event. And this is also represented by the coming of the bridegroom to the marriage, described by Christ in the parable of the 10 virgins of Matthew 25. The Great Controversy, page 426. The description by Daniel applies to the commencement of the judgment for the dead, but the one by Malachi 3 verse 1 to 3 is applicable to the judgment for the living. All of the same event, Day of Atonement, cleansing of the sanctuary. So that is very plain, brothers and sisters. The coming of Christ in Matthew 25 is Christ coming to the most holy place. What feast? Day of Atonement. So that is very plain here in 2SR page 184. So here we can easily discern, brothers and sisters, that in the primary application, that is the commencement of the cleansing of the sanctuary, but the direct application, brothers and sisters, is not the commencement, but rather the last and the final Day of Atonement. So I would like to read again the statement given in early writings, 260. Those who rejected the first message could not be benefited by the second. So let us first focus our attention to the first angel's message. The voice of inspiration says that if you will reject the first angel's message, then there is no possibility that you could accept the second angel's message, that you will be benefited by the second angel's message. And of course, those who reject the second angel's message, neither will they be benefited by the midnight cry, which was to prepare them to enter with Jesus by faith into the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. So, the statement is very plain, brothers and sisters. These three messages must be proclaimed first. The first angel's message, the second angel's message, and then the midnight cry, before Jesus Christ will enter into the most holy place. And of course, those who rejected these three messages, brothers and sisters, they could not enter into the most holy place, and they were the foolish virgins. Why is it, brothers and sisters, the parable in Matthew 25 is directed to the 10 virgins? Let us analyze closely, brothers and sisters. Who are they, the 10 virgins? Of course, they were only divided into two, wise and foolish virgins. Now, I would like to read the description of the wise virgins and the description of the foolish virgins. But first of all, brothers and sisters, we need to ever remember that accordingly, the foolish virgins, they are not hypocrites. Christ Object Lesson 411, right? So, it says, the class represented by the foolish virgins are not hypocrites. So, that is very plain. The class represented by the foolish virgins are not hypocrites. Who are they, the hypocrites? Let's read again, 2SR page 101. It says, 2SR 101, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites, with the heads of the beasts. 2SR 101. Who are they, the hypocrites? They are represented by the 7 heads of the leopard-like beast, and the 7 heads of the scarlet-colored beast. So heads represent leadership. So we can easily understood that the 10 virgins are not those who are in the leadership. But brothers and sisters, there is quiet distinction between the foolish virgins and the wise virgins. Now I would like to read here the description of the foolish virgins. Let's read 2SR page 185. So, 2SR 185. Summary of the 10 virgins. So, this is the summary. Summary of the 10 virgins. Let's read first the foolish virgins. It says, The 5 foolish virgins are they who had confidence in men. Brothers and sisters, of course, I will no longer elaborate. Men mentioned here are those who are in the leadership. So the character of the foolish virgins when they will hear message, and at the time that their senses will be awakened, they will immediately go to the leaders in their respective organizations. And then when their leaders will say, do not listen, then they immediately drop their interest. That is the foolish virgins. So let's read, it says here in 2S185, the 5 foolish virgins are they who had confidence in men. They were willing that others should think and study for them. So that is their character. Their love for this world and the things of it exceeded their love for Christ and the world to come. They had no true sense of the awful result of sin. Their zeal for self drowned their zeal for the house of God and His honor. They were satisfied with their lamps trim and but little oil in them. They saw no necessity for more light, prophets, truth, or message. They said in their hearts, we are rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. They were prejudiced against light upon the word of God and accepted not the truth because the channel through which it came was not of their choice. Why is it that they did not accept the truth, the message? Because the channel through which it came was not of their choice, and they were prejudiced. But the character of the wise virgins are opposite, brothers and sisters. They were not bothered, brothers and sisters, to anything, but only to the truth. As long as they found out that the message that they were listening is that thus saith the Lord, they accept it, regardless, brothers and sisters. It says here in 2SR185, the 5 wise virgins were they who had trusted in God and His word only, having no confidence in men, and were hungry for truth, searching for light, and gladly accepting it when it came. Thus they received the seal of God's approval. Their sins were blotted out, and their lives made sure. They passed from condemnation and death into glory and life eternal. They are God's servants, kings and priests, 144,000 in number. Now let's read the Bible itself, brothers and sisters. What is the message of the midnight cry? Let's read Matthew 20:25. Verse 6, it says, and at midnight there was a cry made. What does it mean? Meaning that at midnight, the cry was already made. It did not say, and at midnight there is a cry made. But rather, and at midnight there was a cry made. Brothers and sisters, what is that cry? The cry of the first angel's message. And then it says, and at midnight there was a cry made. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Now, what does it mean by go ye out? Unless you will go out, you cannot meet him. Now, I would like to read again the statement in 2SR. 2SR page 100. Let's read the statement. 2SR page 188. 2SR 188. Thus symbolically showing that he cannot meet his saints face to face until after he has met them in the most holy, blotted out their sins, not in figure, but in reality, in the antitypical day of atonement. Now let's read again. 2SR page 189. Thus symbolically showing that he cannot meet his saints face to face until after he has met them in the most holy, blotted out their sins, not in figure, but in reality, in the antitypical day of atonement. 2SR 188. So the statement, go ye out to meet him, to meet the bridegroom. Where? In the most holy place. But you cannot meet Jesus Christ in the most holy place unless you will go out. Out of what? Brothers and sisters, of course, that statement, go ye out, meaning you accepted the proclamation of the second angel's message. Now, let us read again the statement in early writings, 216. It says, those who rejected the first message could not be benefited by the second, neither were they be benefited by the midnight cry, which was to prepare them to enter with Jesus by faith into the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary. So the last message to be proclaimed before Jesus Christ will enter to the most holy place is the midnight cry. But you cannot understand the midnight cry unless you understand the second angel's message according to the voice of inspiration. So it's very important, brothers and sisters, to have a clear conception concerning the second angel's message. Now, I would like to read Early Writings, page 238. Early Writings, page 238. Near the close of the second angel's message, I saw a great light from heaven shining upon the people of God. The rays of this light seemed bright as the sun, and I heard the voices of angels crying, Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Early Writings, page 238. And brethren, I know that every one of us understood that the direct application of the second angel's message, or the perfect fulfillment, was still future in the days of Sister White and Billy Hogarth, because the direct application must be in the judgment that pertains to the living. Now let us read the Great Controversy. The Great Controversy, page 390. Brethren, let us focus our attention to the second angel's message, because that second angel's message is the last message, brothers and sisters, prior to the proclamation of the midnight cry. But it cannot be applied in the days of William Miller because the arrangement of the occurrence is contrary to the proper application of the parable. The midnight cry was proclaimed first before the second angel's message, because the second angel's message was proclaimed in October 22, 1844. According to the Shepherd's Rod, 2SR page 97. But the midnight cry was proclaimed prior to 1844, 2SR 181. Now, I would like to read again the statement in 2SR page 97. It says, But as the disappointment came in 1844 through the misunderstanding of what was to transpire at the end of the prophetic period, the movement created by Miller came to its end. The second angel's message of Revelation 14:8 had announced that Babylon, the churches prior to 1844, had fallen. So the second angel's message was proclaimed immediately after the disappointment. Immediately after October 22, 1844. And also it is stated in 2SR 245, it says, Thus the second angel's message of Revelation 14 verse 8 was proclaimed immediately after the disappointment. When does the second angel's message had been proclaimed on its primary base? After the disappointment. But how about the midnight cry? When it was proclaimed? Prior to 1844. 2SR page 181. Let us read again. It says, the midnight cry was first proclaimed prior to 1844. So, the statement in 2SR 182, very plain, brothers and sisters, that contrary to a proper application of the parable, 2SR 182, contrary to a proper application of the parable. Because the proper application of the parable, the first angel's message must be proclaimed first, and then the second angel's message, and then the midnight cry, and then the third angel's message will swell into a loud cry. That is the proper application of the parable. So, the direct fulfillment cannot be found in the days of William Miller because it is contrary to the proper application of the parable according to the Shepherd's Rod. So, let us now study closely the second angel's message, brothers and sisters. Remember, according to the old symbolic code, let me read to you. One symbolic code, number 6, page 9. One symbolic code, number 6, page 9. It says, Therefore, after the first and second angel's message were presented to the people at that time, their probation closed, and their destinies were unalterably fixed, either for eternal life or eternal death, as was the case with Saul, king of Israel. Now the comparison is the rejection of King Saul. When God rejected King Saul. Who is the antitypical Saul? Let us read track number 8 on page 48. It says, track number 8, page 48. This being so, then it necessarily follows that Saul, the first king who reigned over Israel and was largely responsible for the early experience of David's life, is a type of the church leadership in the period preceding the loud cry, the leadership which was raised up in 1844. So what leadership represented by King Saul? The Seventh-day Adventist Church. And that's why the Shepherd's Rod says that in 1931, the Seventh-day Adventist Church was demoted, but not yet cast out. That is very plain in the reading on 2 Symbolic Code number 10, page 7. It says, 2 Symbolic Code number 10, page 6 and 7. Demoted, but not yet cast out. So, there is a divinely appointed time when the Seventh-day Adventist Church leadership will be finally cast out by God. The same as God rejected King Saul. When? After the first and the second angel's messages were presented to the people at that time. It could not be in the primary application, because in the primary application, when thus the first and second angel's message had been proclaimed, October 22, 1844. So are we saying that in October 22, 1844, the Seventh-day Adventist leadership, antithetical soul, at that time, God rejected them? That is the commencement of the establishment of the Seventh-day Adventist organization. Therefore, this statement in 1 Symbolic Code number 6, page 9, must be applied only in the proclamation of the first angel's message and the second angel's message in the period of the judgment that pertains to the living. And the statement, brothers and sisters, their destinies are unalterably fixed. It says, their destinies were unalterably fixed, either for eternal life or eternal death. And that statement can be applied only on the Day of Atonement. Now, ponder deeply this statement. In Words to the Little Flock. Words to the Little Flock, page 11. Let us read the statement. The work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. Let us distinctly separate Revelation 14:8 and Revelation 18, verse 4. Because Revelation 14, verse 8, according to the spur prophecy on the great controversy, it says, let us read, the great controversy 383, the message of Revelation 14 announcing the fall of Babylon, Revelation 14, verse 8, must apply to religious bodies that were once pure and have become corrupt. That statement cannot be applied to the churches by which it is not of God, because only the church raised by God experience of being pure. So the statement must apply to religious bodies that were once pure and have become corrupt, indicates, brothers and sisters, that those churches which is of God, later on, it was defeated by the devil. What does it mean? Babylon had fallen, in the spiritual aspect. What is the significance? We need to study closely, brothers and sisters. Now, I would like to read the Old Symbolic Code. Here in the Old Symbolic Code on page, let's read the statement. It says here, 1 Symbolic Code number 4, page 8. 1 Symbolic Code number 4, page 8. It says, let's read the statement. It says, in fact, 1 Symbolic Code number 4, page 8. In fact, it would have been illogical if all of the 7 churches, candlesticks, Revelation 1, verse 20, were not represented by a symbol of the same likeness as that of the other 6 churches, Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, and Philadelphia. For they, the early Christian and Protestant churches too, were once God's chosen churches as the Laodicean is now. What does it mean? Were once God's chosen churches. That statement cannot be used if that chosen churches are still recognized by God as His. So let us now study closely what the Shepherd's Rod teaches and the spur prophecy. Now, I would like to read to you this reading in 1SR. On page 1SR, on page 54, it says, now the question is, in which church shall it find its fulfillment? Now the question is, in which church shall it find its fulfillment? It can only find its fulfillment in God's true church. If the Protestant churches have fallen and are termed Babylon, then they have neither part nor lot in this lesson. What happened to the Protestant churches? Have fallen and are termed Babylon. Now let us connect again the reading in the Old Symbolic Code. Number 6. 1 Symbolic Code. And number 4 on page 8. It says, for they, the early Christian, that is the Ephesus, and Protestant churches, that is the Lutherans, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, and the First-day Adventists, too were once God's chosen churches, meaning it is God who raised the Lutherans, it is God who raised the Presbyterian, the Methodist, the Baptist, and the Millerites movement, by which later on it was called the First-day Adventists. Those churches
is recognized by God as His. So what is the significance of the message of the second angel's message? Saying, Babylon had fallen. Babylon had fallen. Let's read the Bible. Revelation 14 verse 8. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen. Babylon is fallen. That great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So what is the significance of the message of the second angel? Let's read the shepherd's rod. 2 288. It says, second, the churches who were in existence prior to 1844 fell with the proclamation of the second angel's message. Revelation 14:8, showing that God would no longer reveal Himself through that channel. What is the significance of the proclamation of the second angel's message? Showing that God would no longer reveal Himself through that channel. That statement is easy to understand. That prior to that time, God is revealing Himself through these channels. I remember the statement, I think that is in track number 4, when it says here, page 52, track number 4, page 52. With the abundance of evidence herein made available to all, no one need remain in ignorance of the source through which the Lord reveals Himself, if it will but investigate personally. Not like the foolish virgins, they put their trust to the ministers. When the ministers told them, do not listen, they will not listen. B.T. Hotep says that to consult a man is as bad as to consult the power of the darkness, according to 2TG45, brothers and sisters. 2TG45 on page, that's the statement given by the shepherd. To consult a man is as bad as to consult the power of darkness. 2TG41, page 22. It says, let's read the statement given by the shepherd's rod. It says, and let us remember that to make flesh your arm, to consult man when God should be consulted, is every bit as bad as to consult the spirits of darkness. Brothers and sisters, if you heard a message and you think it is the first time that you hear that message, the only thing that you need to do is to consult God. Kneel down, pray. Do not consult any man. Cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Isaiah 2 verse 22. This is why B.T. Hunter says here, in White House Recruiter, I would like to read White House Recruiter, page 66. Refuse to be influenced by evil reports, hearsay, ridicule, and character defamation. Instead, faithfully use your own eyes, ears, and mind. Then you will be as glad as was he, and how glad he was. That is Nathanael. The experience of Nathanael. White House Recruiter, page 66 and page 67. And even in Desire of Ages says that if Nathanael had trusted the guidance of the priests and rabbis, he will never have found Jesus Christ. Because all the priests, all the ministers at that time, they speak evil against Jesus Christ. And if Nathanael trusted the guidance of those leaders, according to the Desire of Ages, he would never found Jesus Christ, brothers and sisters. And the same today. If we will trust the guidance of those leaders, we will never found the present truth. 140 and 141. If Nathanael, Desire of Ages, had trusted to the rabbis for guidance, he would never have found Jesus. It was by seeing and judging for himself that he became a disciple. So in the case of many today, whom prejudice withholds from good, how different would be the result if they would come and see. While they trust to the guidance of human authority, none will come to a saving knowledge of the truth. Like Nathanael, we need to study God's word for ourselves and pray for the enlightenment of the Holy Spirit. He who saw Nathanael under the fig tree will see us in the secret place of prayer. Angels from the world of light are near to those who in humility seek for the divine guidance or for divine guidance. Now, let's go back to our subject, brothers and sisters. I would like to read, I think, from Testimonies to Ministers. Let me see. I think 114. Here in Testimonies to Ministers. Testimonies to Ministers, page 149. I tell you the things which I have seen, and which are true, that by well-directed, persevering effort, there might be many, very many, more souls brought to a knowledge of the truth. Oh, the end is near. Who is ready for Christ to rise from His throne to put on the garments of vengeance? I would like to read again. Who is ready for Christ to rise from His throne to put on the garments of vengeance, whose names are registered in the Lamb's book of life? The names of those only will be there who follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Testimonies to Ministers, page 149. Whose names to be retained in the Lamb's book of life? Only those who follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. And we know that that is the 144,000 living saints. To be among that special company, we need to follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Brothers and sisters, the Bible cannot be mistaken. Not only the foolish virgins that have been slumbered and sleep, but as well as the wise virgins. And we know the wise virgins is pertaining to the 144,000 living saints. So we should not deny what the Word of God hath declared. It is the Word of God. Look at the Seventh-day Adventist leadership. It is Jesus Christ who declared that all the leadership in Laodicea are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. But the Seventh-day Adventist Church will not accept such declaration. So if they will not accept such declaration, then it is tantamount to declare that Jesus Christ is a liar, because it is Jesus Christ who said it. How about in Matthew 25? Who declared it? It is Jesus Christ. That both the foolish and wise virgins, they were asleep. Brothers and sisters, that is very plain in the Bible. The 10 virgins, they all slumbered and slept. Also stated in 2SR 181. Now, I would like to read the statement in 2SR 182. It says, they all slumbered and sleep. This statement by the Master proves that the church as a body has been asleep, slumbered, and sleep. Here in 1 TG 37, on page 10, their divine calling to awake, however, reveals that though the time of deliverance has come, yet they are in deep spiritual sleep, ignorant of these good tidings. What does it mean? They were deep spiritual sleep, ignorant. They did not know in reality the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Shepherds or believers, they have no understanding where Jesus Christ now at this present time. Look at, brothers and sisters, apology if it is not appropriate, but this is the reality. There is no concrete idea that the shepherds and believers understand concerning the sealing of the 144,000 living saints. If you will ask, does the sealing of the 144,000 living saints already started? They have no concrete idea to give an absolute answer. Some will immediately say the sealing of the 144,000 started on 1930. And we are now 2021. So if we will ask, for how many years does the Bible and the shepherds of teaches the sealing of the 144,000? If it started in 1930, then it must be more than 90 years. Is that what the Bible teaches and the shepherds run? How many years the sealing of the 144,000? And second, when does the sealing of the 144,000 will begin? Now, let us read 2SR 171. The sealing of the 144,000 is at the closing of the judgment of the dead and at the beginning of the judgment of the living. Now, that statement, brothers and sisters, if you will ask the Bedean, what is the closing or closing of the judgment of the dead? The statement is very plain. The sealing of the 144,000 is at the closing of the judgment of the dead. Do you know when does the closing of the judgment of the dead begins? And if you will say 1930, the sealing of the 144,000 begins, then the closing of the judgment of the dead takes place in 1930. But the absolute reality is that they were fulfilling the parable of Jesus Christ as recorded in Matthew 24. From verse 48 to 51, they were smiting against each other, contending who is the true headquarters, while in reality, their headquarters were empty. There is no present truth. They were in total ignorance what is going on in the heavenly sanctuary. Because the living church, now let us read 1 TG, number 51, page 5. If the church is not commensurably growing and expanding, then how can she be a living church? And how can she keep up with the signs of the times and with the progress in the sanctuary above? Does the Davidian know what is the progress in the sanctuary above? If they have no knowledge, then they need to admit that they were a dead church. The statement given in 1 TG, I would like to read to you. 1 TG number 51 on page 5. If the church is not making progress with the truth, if she is not periodically adding unquestionable knowledge to knowledge, then I am sure she has nothing to boast about. She is inactive. Her communication line with heaven broken, is God forsaken, dead. She can never serve her members with meat in due season from the throne of God. Why is it that that church is dead? Because God forsaken. Now let's go back to the second angel's message. Let's go back to the great controversy. Great controversy, page 390. It says, let's read. The Bible declares that before the coming of the Lord, Satan will work with all power and signs and lying wonders and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness. And they that receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved, will be left to receive strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 to 11. Not until this condition shall be reached, and the union of the church with the world shall be fully accomplished throughout Christendom, will the fall of Babylon be complete. The change is a progressive one, and the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 14, verse 8 is yet future. What is the statement given by this prophecy? The perfect fulfillment of Revelation 14, verse 8 is yet future. Or in other words, the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 14:8 must be in the judgment that pertains to the living. And that message must be proclaimed prior to the proclamation of the midnight cry, according to early writings, page 260. Early writings, 238. What is the proclamation of the second angel's message? According to Great Controversy 383, it must be applied to religious bodies which were once pure and become corrupt. It did not say it must be applied to religious body as in singular form, but religious bodies that were once pure and have become corrupt. So that is God's church, because from the time it did exist, it is pure. But later on, it had been corrupted. Now, I would like to read 2SR 245. It says, 2SR 245. Thus, the second angel's message of Revelation 14, verse 8, was proclaimed immediately after the disappointment, saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. That is, the world in 1844 fell in the same manner as the one before the flood. What is the world before the flood? The antediluvian world. And during the antediluvian world, there was no state, there was no nation, only a society. So it is perfectly corroborating to the antitypical fulfillment that the proclamation of the message in 1844 must be applied only to the churches, typifying the antediluvian world that had been fallen before the flood. Then it says, the present world is called Babylon. Brothers and sisters, what is the present world mentioned here, which is called Babylon? Brothers and sisters, if you will read 2SR, let me read to you. 2SR page 100, 112. It says, therefore, 2SR 112, therefore, if this beast represents our world at the present time, what beast? Scarlet-colored beast. What is the present world? Represented by the scarlet-colored beast. Remember, in the old symbolic code, one symbolic code, number 4, page 7, it says, let's read. One symbolic code, number 4, page 7. And the image of the beast, and the image of the beast, above mentioned is the third, of which the scarlet-colored beast of Revelation 17 is symbolical. What is the scarlet-colored beast? The image of the beast. This is the only beast in the Revelation that is called Babylon. The only beast in the book of Revelation, which is called Babylon, is the scarlet-colored beast. Now let us read again, 2SR 245. The present world is called Babylon because the kingdom of Babylon is the immediate one after the flood. Does Babylon become the mother of the nations? What is the difference between the Babylon before the flood and Babylon after the flood? The Babylon before the flood, brothers and sisters, it says Cain is the mother of harlots, representing only the ecclesiastical part, because there was no nation during the antediluvian world. But after the flood, the Babylon is the mother of the nations. 2SR 245. Who is then the modern Babylon? Now let us read two symbolic code. Number 1, page 8. So let us read the statement. It says, the above explains that the thorn beast is the one to whom the number 666 belongs, and that this beast of Revelation 13, 11 to 18, and the king of the north of Daniel 11, verse 45, are the same power. Therefore, the nation represented by this particular beast and the king of the north, or the man who is to be the head king of that nation, in the time when this image beast, the two-horn, enforces the worship of his image, whose image is nothing less than the thing he made, are to make a likeness of the religio-political system, the beast before him, the leopard-like of Revelation 13, 1, verse 1 to 10. That is a likeness of the papal system in the period before the leopard-like beast received his deadly wound. Then it says, as the fulfillment of this prophecy is yet future, we cannot now tell who will then be the head king of the north of this prophetic nation, modern Babylon, that is symbolized by the two-horned beast. Who is the modern Babylon? The two-horned beast. Now, brothers and sisters, in the symbolization of the beast, what beast is called Babylon? Although we will discuss that on the beast and its image. But let us just take a little view. It was declared by the shepherd's rod. One symbolic code, number 4, page 7. The scarlet-colored beast. This is the only beast in the book of Revelation, which is called Babylon. One symbolic code, number 4, page 7. So, what is Babylon in this study? When it points out to the United States of America, it must be Revelation 14, verse 8. I would like to repeat again, let us distinctly separate Revelation 18, because Revelation 18 is pointing to the woman. The statement here saying that the modern Babylon is the two-horned beast. The two-horned beast is not the woman, but the two-horned beast is called Babylon. What Babylon? Revelation 14, verse 8. Therefore, Revelation 14:8 must be applied to religious bodies which were once pure in the direct application of the prophecy applied to the United States of America, by which America, when it was established, it is a pure nation, but later on become corrupt. Not only the nation, but as well as the churches. Not only the churches, but as well as the nations. What is the two-horn? Now let us read first. 2TG. Number, by which the shepherd's rod says that the two-horn represents the two ruling parties, Democrats and Republicans. 2TG, let me see if we find that statement. In 2TG number 17, page 9 and 10. The beast's two horns point to its two political ruling powers, Democrats and Republicans. Do not forget that. What is the beast's two horns? Democrats and Republicans, or Republicans and Democrats. The two ruling powers in the United States of America. So, very plain, brothers and sisters. Now, who will form the image to the beast and the image of the beast? Let's read the great controversy. It says here, the great controversy, let us read first, 438. A correct interpretation of the symbols employed is necessary to an understanding of this message. Why is it that we need to connect our study concerning the beast? Because we're studying Babylon. We are studying Revelation 14:8, which is the focal point is Babylon. Why is it that it is repeated twice? Babylon is fallen, is fallen. There must be an accurate significance because God will not make vain repetitions. According to 2SR 194, God will not make a vain repetitions. And it says, a correct interpretation of the symbols employed is necessary to an understanding of this message. What is represented by the beast, the image, the mark. Now, I would like to focus to the reading in the Great Controversy, 443. But what is the image to the beast? And how is it to be formed? The image is made by the two-horned beast, and is an image to the beast, it is also called an image of the beast. Then to learn what the image is like and how it is to be formed, we must study the characteristics of the beast itself, the papacy. Now let us just take a little view on that subject. Who will form the image? The image to the beast, an image of the beast. The two horn. If you still remember, I would like to read, brothers and sisters, again, that statement that in order for us to understand clearly difficult passages, we need always to make a table, or brothers and sisters, table chart, and then establish divine principles. So we need to establish divine principles. So let's read the statement. It says here, page number 4. It says, the only way to understand difficult passages of the Bible is to hold fast to certain firmly established principles. So let us establish firmly divine principles. So I would like to, who are they? The two horns. The answer is found in 2 TG 17, page 9 and 10. What is the answer? Republicans and Democrats. The two horns represent the two ruling parties, or two ruling powers in the United States of America. In the book of Revelation, what beast represented by Babylon? What beast? What beast represented by Babylon? So let us establish. According to one symbolic code, number 4, page 6, is scarlet colored. Only the scarlet colored beast, which is called Babylon. The next question, who formed the image? Who formed the image? The answer is the two horn, according to Great Controversy 443. Now, if you will ask, who are they, the two horns? Republicans and Democrats. So God's word can never be mistaken. Although we will discuss this on the subject, the beast and its image, brothers and sisters, it is the Republicans, or I would like to go directly, it is Donald Trump that formed the image to the beast. Image to the beast. And since the image will be formed by the two horn, then there is no doubt that Democrats, Joe Biden or Joseph Biden, he will be the one to form the image of the beast. What is the image to the beast? That is represented by the scarlet-colored beast, by which one of his heads that had been wounded was healed. So pointing to the scarlet color that had been, brothers and sisters, illustrated that one of his heads had been wounded, but it was healed. But what is the image of the beast? It is the scarlet-colored beast, which is unharmed, never been wounded. So, the prophecy, or the sure prophecy, never fails to tell the whole truth. Or, in other words, the image to the beast is pointing to the fulfillment of Revelation 14:8. But the image of the beast is pointing to the fulfillment of Revelation 18, verse 4. Both of them is saying Babylon is fallen and Babylon is fallen. But Revelation 14:8 must apply to religious bodies that were once pure and had become corrupt. Meaning, the application of Revelation 14:8 is pointing to the churches which is of God, but later on, it was corrupted by the devil, and then God left those churches and they were under control of the devil. But these churches in Revelation 18 never been of God. But this one, they were once God's church. That is the description given by the shepherd's rod. Now, let us go back again to our subject, brothers and sisters, concerning the second angel's message. Now here, the shepherd's rod made it so plain into symbolic code number 1, page 8, that modern Babylon is pointing to the United States of America. When does the application will be fulfilled that United States of America will become modern Babylon? That is the time, brothers and sisters, when the first horn, which is the fulfillment pointing to the Republican, form the image to the beast. Image to the beast. But the Democrats, they will form image of the beast. So we need to focus first to the image to the beast before we could understand the image of the beast. I would like to read again words to the little flag on page 11. It says, the work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. And as a large portion of them did not learn this fact, until the power of the midnight cry wake them up. I know that it is pointing only to the 144,000 living saints, the true people of God. Because The shepherds who had made it so plain that the true people of God will not sleep forever. 2 TG 24:23, the church therefore will not sleep forever. The true people of God will awake to their poverty. What poverty? Spiritual poverty. That without the present truth, we are in a deep spiritual poverty. And the true people of God will be awakened to that fact. Brothers and sisters, they will profit at this rousing call. So they will be benefited. It says here, the work of the second angel was to show to the Advent host that Babylon had fallen. And as a large portion of them did not learn this fact until the power of the midnight cry waked them up, just in time for them to make their escape from the churches before the 10th day came on. So the reason that the 144,000 brothers and sisters, they were scattered throughout the earth without a shepherd, because they escaped from the churches. No, there was no message in Revelation 14:8 to come out. That statement is found in Revelation 18 verse 4. But the essence is the same. The midnight cry says in Matthew 25 verse 6, it says, "Go ye out," meaning escape from the churches before the 10th day came on. In the primary application, what churches that they came out? It is from Lutherans, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, First-day Adventists. These are the 5 churches that they came out. Or in other words, but it even more particularly pointing to these 4 great denominations, Lutherans, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist. These 4 churches were God's chosen churches. Why is it that they need to came out? Because God rejected those churches. And they could not understand the message of the midnight cry unless they will go out to meet Jesus Christ. Where? In the most holy place. Now, let us go back to track number 2. Track number 2, page 29 and page 30. Track number 2, page 29 and page 30. It says, the concluding revelation is, "Behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country." What is the north country? Babylon. Then it says, after the warning message by the Millerite movement had been rejected by the churches, in fulfillment of the words, "have quieted my spirit in the north country," God withdrew His spirit from them. What does it mean? Have quieted my spirit in the north country? Meaning, God withdrew His spirit from them. Meaning, prior to that time, God's spirit had been deposited unto them. But God withdrew His spirit from them. In evidence of this, the second angel announced, "Babylon is fallen." Revelation 14 verse 8. So to understand Revelation 14:8 is easy. Meaning, that's the second angel's message is an announcement and a declaration that those churches which is of God had been rejected by God. They had been defeated by the devil. Now, I would like to read to you, brothers and sisters, again, 2SR page 112. It says, "Therefore, if this beast represents our world at the present time," that is the scarlet colored, "would it not be unwise on the part of God if He should have neglected to foresee the present day multiplicity of sect and the great confusion among Christendom? If the symbols by this beast fail to reveal the true condition of the churches, as the nondescript beast tells the fall of the church in the period he represents, so must the scarlet colored. In fact, this is the principal reason why these prophetic beasts are presented." Now let's go to SR 113. Does the scarlet-colored beast have 7 unharmed heads? The 7 heads represent Christendom as they do on the leopard-like beast. Now, brothers and sisters, when does the scarlet-colored beast, or that word is represented by unharmed heads? That is the time of the 46th President of the United States of America. In the time of Joseph Biden. And we will prove to you. Study the beast and its image. It says, the 7 heads represent Christendom as they do on the leopard-like beast. You see the 7 heads on the scarlet-colored beast and the 7 heads on the leopard-like beast, both of them represented by Christendom. What does it mean by Christendom? The dominion of the Christians. Then it says, the 7 heads represent Christendom as they do on the leopard-like beast. But it is in the symbol of the scarlet-colored that they are called Babylon. Who are they that are called Babylon in the symbol of the scarlet-colored? Ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. It could not be brethren, the Lutherans, Presbyterian, Methodist, Baptist, and First-day Adventists, because they are called Babylon in 1844. And it is illogical to say that they are called Babylon if they are already Babylon. From the time it did exist, that is Babylon. What does it mean by the statement? They are called Babylon. What is the statement given in tract number 2, 29 and 30? God withdrew His Spirit from them. In 2SR 288, God will no longer reveal Himself through that channel. So brothers and sisters, let us distinctly separate in primary application, because the Babylon there pointing to the churches, but in the final application, it is no longer pointing to the churches, but to the entire nations, United States of America. Therefore, whatever churches within the United States of America, it was rejected by God, brothers and sisters. When? At the time, in the period of the scarlet-colored beast. What is scarlet-colored beast? Unharmed. What is the scarlet-colored beast that commenced in February 11, 1929? That is the scarlet-colored beast by which, pointing to Revelation 13, one of his heads had been wounded, and it was healed. And it is called the image to the beast. The image of the beast never been wounded, unharmed. But the 11th hour church, the 11th hour movement, no, he will not wound the beast, but they will decapitate. I remember the statement. Let's read tract number 8. Let me see if we could find that statement. In tract number 8, I would like to find a statement by which, so that it will never heal again. I think that is tract number 8. The statement, so that it will never heal again. I'm looking to that statement in tract number 8, 59 and 60. So let us read the statement. It says, and the fifth and last at the 11th hour, the judgment of the living, the time of the loud cry, which shall wound the beast, and with his own sword, the 10 horns of Revelation 17:16, cut off his head, then with fire destroy him, so that the wound shall never heal again. So that image of the beast, what is the statement? Brothers and sisters, it is represented by antitypical Goliath. Let us read the statement in page 58. It says, the giant Goliath accordingly represents those who now defy the servants of God, and who shall comprise the image of the beast, that religio-political system. The image of the beast and the image to the beast, both of them are called religio-political system. But the image to the beast is a local religio-political system, whereas the image of the beast, that is international religio-political system. So, here the representation is the same with Goliath when David cut the head of Goliath by his own sword. So, what is the sword? What is the sword of the image of the beast that the antitypical house of David will use to cut the head of the image of the beast? His own sword, that is the 10 horns of Revelation 17:16. So, we will discuss that on our subject, the beast and its image. But let us focus, brothers and sisters, first to our subject, Revelation 14 verse 8. Why is it that it is very important? Because unless you understand Revelation 14:8, there is no possibility that you could receive the midnight cry, because the midnight cry cannot be and will not originate in the United States of America. Because the second angel's message declared that the United States of America are called Babylon. When? Let us read again the statement here in 2SR 113. Thus the scarlet-colored beast has 7 unharmed heads. The 7 heads represent Christendom, as they do on the leopard-like beast. Where does the leopard-like beast originate? On the sea. What is the sea? The old world. How about the scarlet-colored beast? Wilderness. But what is the scarlet-colored beast? The image of the beast. Ponder deeply. It's easy to understand. The scarlet-colored beast is the image of the beast. One symbolic code number 4, page 7. Who formed the image of the beast? The 2 horn. United States of America. Where does the scarlet-colored beast? The location. Wilderness. So what does it mean by wilderness? It was formed by the United States of America. United States of America is the modern vineyard, because vineyard represent Palestine. Tract number 12, page 43. But what happened to the vineyard? Read Isaiah chapter 5. It became wilderness. What does it mean? In tract number 6, on page 33, his vineyard desolate. It says, the fact that this vineyard figurative of the church, Isaiah 5:7, wherein its vine was once worth a silver link, has become a place for briars and thorns, shows that its husbandman has left it desolate, a type condition which Christ more fully projected in the following words, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem. So Matthew 23, verse 37 and 38, this declaration of Jesus Christ is typical, pointing to the antitype United States of America. What does it mean by desolate? Tract number 3, page 41. It says, and for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it, the temple in Jerusalem, desolate, meaning his presence completely removed. The same with Zechariah 6 verse 8. God's Spirit had been quieted in the north country. Where is the north country? Babylon. Now let us read again 2TG 22, page 22. God's Spirit having been silenced in the north country must denote that the messages of God in the north country were generally rejected, meaning majority, especially the one of the fourth chariot. It did not say, especially one of the four chariots. No. One of the fourth chariot. What is the fourth chariot? Tract number 2, page 34. Laodicean. The phrase one of indicates two objects. And it is pointing to typical Laodicean and antitypical Laodicean. What is Laodicea? People declaring judgment. Answerer number 1, page 11. So one of this Laodicea, either the typical or the antitypical. The root cause why God's Spirit having been silenced in the north country. But it is not, brothers and sisters, the particular object in view is not pointing whether it is typical or antitypical, but it is pointing to the result that caused the Spirit of truth to turn away and to bring truth no more through them, to be silent there. Where? North country. What is the north country? Babylon. Does the Seventh-day Adventist Church is Babylon? No. Does the Bidian is Babylon? No. Therefore, the declaration Babylon, north country, is pointing to the place United States of America. Yes, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is not Babylon. Yes, the Bidians are not Babylon. But they are in the country which is became Babylon, United States of America. When? When does United States of America are called Babylon? In the period of the scarlet-colored beast. What's scarlet-colored? Unharmed. Not in 1929, because in 1929, the wound is healed. It cannot be applied that term, unharmed. Now let us read 2SR 114. The period represented by the scarlet-colored beast commenced in 1929, at which time the deadly wound was healed. That is image to the beast, because the image of the beast, it is unharmed. Who will form the image to the beast? Republicans. Who will form the image of the beast? Democrats. The 45th and the 46th president. If the 46th president is still Republicans, then the prophecy, brothers and sisters, had never been fulfilled. Because the statement, it will be formed by the two horn. What is the two horn? Republican and Democrats. 2TG 17, page 9 and 10. So the 45th president must be Republican and the 46th president must be Democrats. Because it was predicted beforehand that the last two presidents represented by the two horn, Republican and Democrats. The Republican formed the image to the beast, but the Democrats formed the image of the beast. The scarlet-colored beast, which is unharmed. And that is the time by which they are called Babylon. Who? United States of America. Now, I would like to read 2SR page 113. The scarlet-colored beast has 7 unharmed heads. The 7 heads represent Christendom, as they do on the leopard-like beast. But it is in the symbol of the scarlet-colored that they are called Babylon. What symbol? 7 unharmed heads. That is the statement in the upper sentence. As he is full of names and blasphemy, it verifies the fact that he represents an exceeding sinful period. Full of names implies a period of great multiplicity of so-called Christian sects, and blasphemy because of rejecting present truth. What is the blasphemy? The blasphemy there is that, let us be called by your name. As long as the headquarters is in the United States of America, that is enough for us. The same with the Jewish people. As long as they can behold the temple standing, it is enough for them. Although they were destitute of the dew from heaven. They have no knowledge the Messiah was coming. And what happened to their temple? Completely destroyed. The people in the United States of America, more particularly to the Davidian, are repeating the mistakes of the Jews. They were boasting to their headquarters, but you can never hear from them discussing the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Why? Because they have no knowledge at all. Because God's Spirit have been withdrawn. God's Spirit have been silenced in the United States of America. What is the declaration given by the shepherds? Do not expect any truth in the United States of America. What truth? Present truth. There is no present truth. Brothers and sisters, if the present truth will originate in the United States of America, then there will be no image of the beast. What is the image of the beast? Why is it that it was formed in the United States of America? Because they reject present truth. Brothers and sisters. For example, the old world, in October 22, 1844, look at the picture. If there is still present truth in Europe at that time, then God would not declare Babylon is fallen. God rejected the old country. While in reality, the present truth, the church by which the present truth had been deposited by God is still within the continent of Europe. So that is very logical. The shepherd says, do not expect any truth. I would like to read again 2 TG 22 on page 22. It says, which caused the spirit of truth to turn away and to bring truth no more through them, to be silent there, and that, therefore, there is not to be expected any truth through them. If God will channel or will raise up any messenger in United States of America, then God is telling a lie. In Isaiah 59:16, it says, God finds no man. That is figurative speech, meaning, I no longer use any man, not even one, in the United States of America. Sister White says, Isaiah 59, Testimonies for the Church, Volume 1, 355, is pointing to the condition of our nation. Sister White is American citizen. Therefore, Isaiah 59 is pointing to United States of America that in the time of the judgment that pertains to the living, there is no more inspired messenger in the United States of America. Who said it? God Himself. Do not expect any truth to come in the United States of America because present truth comes only from God. 11 symbolic code. Number 3, page 5. Then how could it be that there is present truth in the United States of America when God Himself says, I will no longer send any present truth in the United States of America? Think it thoroughly. That is why the voice of inspiration is plainly telling brothers and sisters, it is easy that, brethren, however plausible, if you can hear them, they explain very well. As long as that message is originated in the North Country, it cannot be of God. Because the truth cometh only from God. And if God Himself says that, do not expect any truth from the North Country, brothers and sisters, then it is illogical to say that there is a message in the North Country that cometh from God when God said, I will no longer channel my message in that country. It says here in tract 11, page 12, a lesson. All present truth believers should now see the necessity of shunning every wind of doctrine, regardless how plausible or reasonable it might appear to be. Remember the words, behold, those that go toward the North Country have quieted my spirit in the North Country. You see, it says, remember, do not forget that words. What does it mean? In Zechariah 6 verse 8, it means that when I declare that I will no longer reveal myself, my spirit has been quieted in that place. I withdraw my spirit. My presence completely removed. Therefore, regardless how plausible or reasonable it might appear to be, do not believe it. It did not come from God because God Himself declared, do not expect any truth. Whether you like it or not, that is the reality. You can never heard any message from the United States of America. explaining the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Not even one, brothers and sisters, because the only one who can open the book is Jesus Christ. So without the Spirit of Christ, no one could be able to explain it. Even the devil either. We guarantee you 100%. You can never heard this message in the United States of America explaining the occurrence in the heavenly sanctuary. And that's why B.T. Hotep says, I would like to read that statement on the old symbolic code. 11 symbolic code number 12 on page 12 and 13. 11 symbolic code number 12. Let's read the statement. It says, the cry to meet the bridegroom comes after the time of tarrying. What is the tarrying time? Judgment for the dead. Then how could you be able to declare the midnight cry if you did not know when does the tarrying time ended? Because that is the statement in 2SR. At the end of the tarrying period, 2SR 182, it says, if the foregoing application is correct, then at the end of the tarrying period, or just prior to the commencement of the judgment of the living, there must be a message cry. So that is the midnight cry. When? At the end of the tarrying period. What is the tarrying period? Judgment for the dead. I would like to read that words. The tarrying period is a judgment for the dead. First in 2SR page 182. Therefore, the tarrying time must be the judgment for the dead. So the statement, at the end of the tarrying period, meaning the judgment for the dead is closed. And that's why in 2SR 164, it says, unless the close of the judgment for the dead and the commencement for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth while the judgment for the living is in session. And that knowledge, when the judgment for the dead will close and the judgment for the living begins, will never originate in the United States of America. They were in total darkness concerning about it. And it says here in 11 symbolic code number 12 pages 13 14, an announcement is made that the bridegroom cometh. All the virgins are wakened by it. If the announcement were to come from the general conference, it did not say general conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but it is pointing, brothers and sisters, to the headquarters. Or in other words, if the announcement were to come from the headquarters, you know that all the members would fill their vessels with oil and all would have it. Because that is the attitude, more particularly to the foolish virgins. If the message will originate from their headquarters, all of them will accept it. But the facts are, though that the cry does not come from there, the pronoun there pointing to a place, it says, the facts are, though that the cry does not come from there in the United States of America, the message, brothers and sisters, is outside the United States of America. It did not come from there. And I know the wise virgins can easily recognize the voice of truth. We will continue this subject on our next episode. Thank you very much for listening and viewing this program. We love you, brethren, hoping to see you in God's kingdom. Thank you very much and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.